This is a close-up of my ear. I'm nervous about showing it. I've never had my ear scrutinised by a group this big before. But I had to start here because this is where my story starts. One day, my doctor found a mole behind it, and she said she was going to have to cut it out. Has anyone here had the experience of having a scalpel used close to your eardrum? No. It's ghastly. It's this unmistakable wet sound. And by the time I got home that day, I conceived an app for a desktop that was going to let you take a photograph of a mole, track it, and then see if it was changing at all, and hopefully avoid the scalpel. Unfortunately, this was back in 2001, and photos came on those things. So I filed the idea away under absolutely impossible and put it aside for 10 years. And in 10 years, something amazing happened. I had this thing called an iPhone, and suddenly everything was possible. There were good cameras on board. There were apps to be created. I took the idea out, and the ACT government, thank you guys, liked the idea too, so they gave us a grant to get us started. And here are 3 numbers that really chart the course that we went through. It took us 8 months. It took us 19 iterations. I had 214 name suggestions. Some of them were vaguely erotic, like Skin Watcher. Some of them were legally actionable, like Angry Moles. And some of them sounded like the name for an app for a serial killer, Skinner Pro. So, but we decided to go with Skin Keeper, and here's what we got to. So you find a mole, you're worried about it, you talk to your doctor about it, you download our app, and you start to track it. Not only do you track the mole, you also track things like personal history, family history, environmental history, clinically relevant information. You keep on watching it, you get a notification about it, and you can produce a report which you can share with your doctor, and it kind of reminds you to do it. And that's the happy family. Obviously, you're also a manga character. So this is, last year, I was walking down the street in Uganda, and there'd been an Ebola outbreak. And about 10 minutes after I read about it in the local newspaper, I got a call from my parents on the Australian continent telling me to come home immediately. Thanks, Mum. And I kind of, pretended that I wasn't going to villages doing research in near the epicenter. But how did that information get to Australia in about 8 hours? It's because Ebola is the stuff of nightmares, which is weird because I reckon we should be more afraid and more worried about skin cancer. Skin cancer is Australia's cancer. It hits very young demographics. Late-stage melanoma is incredibly painful. We should all be very worried about it. And because of this, we realised from the start that this app had to be very, very safe. As we went through the process, we held to this very strongly, and it proved to be a very powerful principle for us. We learned some lessons, and for those of you who are going to be doing M-Health applications, well, now you're going to find out about our lessons. For those of you that aren't, you're also going to find out about our lessons. So here's what we learned. Firstly, mobile health is not to replace the doctor-patient relationship, it's to enhance it. If you think you can get rid of a doctor with a piece of mobile technology, not only are you probably going to kill somebody, but you're also going to make the Cancer Council rightly very, very miffed with you. We heard stories. We actually went out and spoke to people, melanoma sufferers, other skin cancer type sufferers, people who are at risk. And we heard some hard stories and we learned some very valuable lessons. And a lot of our design is derived from those sessions. We spoke to people who had... I now know enough about skin cancer that I can walk up to a dermatologist and bore them because I can talk about it for half an hour beyond what they would actually be comfortable with. You have to be that guy. A bit of obsession turns into a lot of clinical safety. Next lesson. A mate of mine had a doctor friend over for breakfast. I found out that he was a doctor, and I spent the next 20 minutes talking about skin cancer management. He didn't have a good breakfast, but I had a great breakfast. We also had clinicians and specialists advising us, and their information was irreplaceable and often used. And it was particularly good when we could find some of them who were pretty technologically savvy as well. That added to it. Usability is equal to clinical safety. If an mHealth app isn't intuitive, a person might do something wrong, and that something wrong can turn into a pretty serious health consequence for them. So we tested the app. We usability tested, we retested, we retested, we retested. We did a huge amount of testing, and every time we tested, we found something that desperately needed to change. This was essential to the success of the app, and that's probably our strongest lesson, just engaging with the people that are actually going to be using it. Last bit. If you're not happy that your mum is safe to use an mHealth app, don't release it to anyone's mum. That's our biggest lesson. We launched this application 1 week before our wedding. It was already an exciting week. This made it even more exciting, and we were quite happy to go on honeymoon knowing that we'd launched an app that might save some lives and wouldn't harm lives. Thank you.